Tonight we welcome TruthSeekah, artist, musician, UFO contactee, and devoted Christian, for a unique perspective on the extraterrestrial and UFO phenomenon and its connection to the spiritual realm and God. Derek, or TruthSeekah, has been able to capture amazing footage of a Merkaba light body craft, which has gone viral on social media. So he's experienced in making contact with these beings, and I'm so excited to invite him on the show today. Before we get started, if you are interested in CBD or finding a new CBD supplier, I've partnered with Hopewell Farms, and you can get 10% off this very high quality CBD. I take it every single day. It helps with meditation. It helps with my health in general, and we have 10% off with code Lily10 in the description. And if you are looking for a Reiki healing session, if you need your chakras cleared and balanced, or you would just like to work with the inner earth beings, I have a channeled deep chakra healing session available with the link in the description. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Starseed Chats. I have Derek here with me, also known as TruthSeekah, who is a musician. He's an artist, and he's unique. He's a rare breed, I feel like. So I wanted to have him on. I recently met him through an interview on, we did a collaboratory interview on Dr. Charnel's channel about making contact, and I was pretty blown away by some of the things that you were saying, Derek. So I had to have you on, and you've also caught some really cool footage of a Merkaba, and you have a great communication and contact with these higher dimensional beings, but you also have like a religious upbringing in Christianity. And I get some people who come to me with the whole starseed thing, that doesn't always mix together. So it's just really awesome to find somebody who, is a truth seeker and devoted to both of this and open-minded. So I'm really excited to chat with you today. Thank you so much for coming on, and welcome.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I love talking about this, and I call it nerding out with people who actually can go out there and sit for long periods of time and film and know what to look for, and then come back and dissect the footage, but not just catching it on camera as a, hey, I got proof. It's like, no, it's a spiritual connection. And I've heard your story, and, it definitely resonates. There's something deeper to it than just seeing lights in the sky or something like that. So I appreciate the work that you're doing and have some type of proof, right? Some people want to see something, and that's something that stood out for me early with coming into a community where a lot of it's in the imagination, it's in the mind and meditation. I met these beings in these places in the mind, and that's cool. That's so much a part of it, but it's different when they cross the barrier, right? Whenever you see them in your realm of reality. And that's always, I'm a skeptic in all this. And I try to stay that way. But it allows me to have really cool experiences to know that I know, yeah, I'm not going to believe it if that happens, but then this happens and it's like, wow. But I think it's safe to have that. And, being able to catch the stuff on camera, and man, it's amazing. But, and also too, you don't want that to be the proof either, right? Oh, you caught it on camera. Cool. I believe it if I see it. When we know that the truth is the other way around. If I believe it, then I'll see it. And I think we're finding how deep that rabbit hole goes right now anyway.
Yeah, 100%. So whenever, with my story, my background, I wasn't, I stayed away from religion and the whole term God. It made me very uncomfortable at first. A friend gave me a book. You may have heard of it before, after my dad passed, called Conversations with God. Have you heard of that book? Yeah, that helped. It's a really, really good book, and it really helped eliminate a lot of the programming for me, and helped me to understand, a different point of view. And so I was dabbling into that. I was becoming a little spiritual. But these UFOs started showing up, and I was so shocked whenever communication with them began, and they took me down a spiritual journey. And then angels started visiting me. Jesus started visiting me. And I'm like, what's going on? God started talking to me. It's just, it's mind blowing. So, yeah, it's pretty incredible. Pretty
Yeah,
incredible.
the religious conversation and the starseed conversation, it's always been there, whether it's for me or now, a lot of people are having to discuss this stuff. And from the religious point of view, they have this thing about them where they demonize everything. It doesn't matter what it is. If they don't know what it is, it's automatically a demon. And every one of them coming from that background have these stories about demons and fallen angels, and they're experts on it. But when it comes to the angelic, they don't, they're not as well versed. They don't have experiences or encounters. But one key thing in the scriptures, it talks about that there was only a third of the angels that so-called fell. That these, the religious connotation would say are fallen angels, if you will, and they say that that's what we're, talking to, fallen angels, those kind of things. But it's only a third that fell. So there should be more that are for us, that are here to help us, than those that are against us. And so it brings a lot more to the conversation with definitions and words, and even what that word fallen angel even means has gone a lot deeper. We're talking about a star seed, a star that fell to earth and was seeded. That's a fallen angel. That is a spirit or an angel that existed somewhere else before it landed here on the earth. And that's what we are. I hate to say what everybody is, because I don't know if everybody is the same thing. But the people who identify with something greater, with magic, with something beautiful, and they know that this is not where they came from, there's something, and they're not going to stay here when they go, they're probably remembering something. And it is a biblical story. But the definitions and the words and the connotation with the imagery tricked everybody. So, the religious people definitely demonize it, but at least they're having the conversation. That's one thing, So again, with that and the footage and the communication and the fruit that comes from this, I can show you better than I can tell you, because everybody's saying this and saying that, and they're watching videos and reading books. No, these are my friends now. So now there's an authority, there's a relationship with such beings, such angels, such energy. And so we're not speaking on it as an outsider. We're speaking on it as somebody who, receives downloads and insights, and all of that's in our Bible, just using different language. And they change the language so it locks people out of this conversation. But they're starting to ask because there's something deeper. They can't deny the energy. They can't deny the beauty, the love, the bliss, the path that somebody was headed, and you can't deny that. And so that's the fruit. That's the skepticism. Anybody can show up and say, the Bible says this and Bible says that, but let me see your lifestyle. Your lifestyle doesn't match the stuff that you're preaching about. So I hope there's a level of integrity in all of this for me, that this is real. This isn't, I've been doing this my whole life. I've been visited mostly by darker entities, and I'm not the only one. So once we start talking about this stuff, having the conversation, and now I can weave biblical language in there, in the starseed conversation, in the alien conversation, if you will. And that's been a big part of my mission. When I first started having so-called contact and going out asking for this stuff to happen was probably 2008 or 9, maybe. But it was in that time of studying, and then videos coming to me, and then downloads and stuff, and then having the experience. There was nobody talking about this stuff from a Christian perspective, from a biblical perspective. And it was demonized, even, more than it is now. But people are having the conversation. And that's one thing that, that's awesome, because we can, people feel something deep within. It's not about convincing anyone of anything. And so that was one thing that helped me, in this part of my journey. As a Christian, as somebody who, proselytizes, has to convince people or win them over. Like I did that, I was combative. I was a street preacher, and, this whole awakening and this knowing is like, there's so much I don't know, that I was mean and condemning and thought I had it all figured out, to where we're in a space where every day we're coming into greater revelation of words, of text, of reality, of all of it. So maybe we should approach it with a little bit more grace, the things that we think we know. And I've tried my best to do that, and it's working for me to live a life of peace and amazing life of awe and wonder, and my wildest dreams coming true, and so forth and so on. So I know you can attest to some of that in your own life.
Isn't it incredible? It's just mind-blowing what's really possible out there. Like, my mind gets blown basically every day in working with this stuff. So I wanted to ask, for those who may not know you, could you give a little bit of background to, so you're Christian, how did, just a little bit of kind of like your origin story, and then whenever these other things started happening to you, like the starseed thing, like how did that make you feel, and kind of how did you, because you probably weren't, you probably didn't know about aliens and all that stuff right from the beginning. It was kind of like a little bit of a journey. Can you share a little bit about that?
Oh yeah. So I trace a lot of this stuff back to having a paranormal experience when I was like 4 years old. I remember waking up in the middle of the night, being pinned to my bed by the shadow beings or whatever, waking up and having the presence of two entities, black shadows, pulling me down to the bed. And I didn't know if I couldn't speak. I know I was too scared to speak or to even cough or to even breathe. So that experience stuck with me, that I had at a very young age. So of asking deeper questions, going to hangouts and sleepovers as a child and teenager, and telling ghost stories. And I would find ways to weave this in. Hey, have you guys ever woke up in the middle of the night with something in your room? And when you're persistent, you start hearing people saying, yeah, my dad had it happen to him. I'm like, oh, wow, really? What was it? I never heard of this. And well, he said it was something called a witch, and they're from Africa, and they're these little shadow beings. You hear just different stories of this experience. And so I, kept asking those questions. And eventually it kind of led me down the road to witchcraft and stuff like that, and witchcraft books and alternative stuff as a teenager. And I ended up getting into Wicca, really mixing a lot of stuff together as just a seeker, even then, right? To where it was real for me. I met a warlock who taught me a lot of stuff, and he was an older guy, took me under his wing, and I was able to see something cross over the threshold. This guy could summon entities that would show up and say hello if they wanted to, and other people can see him. And he was a warlock. So this right here, like, hey, this stuff's real. It's not just something in the movies and make believe. Spiritual warfare, talking to demons or angels or whatever. So I got in really deep because I said I want to become like him. This guy can summon demons to go attack his enemies. That my intrigue, after having an encounter with a entity, that I ended up stealing something from the warlock, and he had a protection spell and did this conjuration, and a being came to me to come torment me and retrieve this stuff. And it was scary, and you think after having like this really scary experience with this guy that I would, okay, this is nothing to play with, I'm in the big league kind of thing. It's like, no, this stuff is real. I want to go deeper into it and learn how to do that myself. So I went deeper into it. Then I started just really doing every ritual, every spell, every meditation, to talk to angels, to talk to fairies, to meet your spirit guides. Like, I did all of them to see if any of them would work. I had been a Christian a few years before. I went to a prayer meeting and dedicated my life to Christ at a prayer meeting. And had a beautiful experience. It only lasted a couple months just because I was a teenager and didn't really have that foundation. But I was in it enough to know energy, the Holy Spirit, upon confessing Christ and asking him to come into my life, and that thing I felt that beauty and that bliss, and had this moment where I felt like my sins were absolved of me. Like I felt this, they prayed for me. I asked Christ to come into my life, and this fire entered me and started moving through my body, cleansing me and burning out all the wrong and all the shame and all the guilt that I had even at a young age. And but so I knew the good and the bad, and that there was energy and stuff in between. So leaving that faith and getting deeper into the witchcraft as a young seeker, teenager, I bit off more than I can chew. You know, I did all those spells because I knew Christianity was real. At least they held some truth or some power. Um, so I got into the witchcraft even deeper, did all those spells, and none of them worked like until they all worked. And I felt like some type of portal had opened up in my house or in my mind. And at will, these beings would pull me in and out of trances. And I would be in mid conversation with my girlfriend, and I would turn pale, and I would be sucked into this realm and see all of these ghosts and spirits and shapes and colors, and they're all trying to talk to me. And my heart's racing, and I'm sweating, and I'm not breathing. Just in mid conversation, pause and get sucked in. And I come back to my body, and oh my God, I don't know what's happening, you know, and just real panic, you know, and it was scary, demonic imagery and the things that I was entertaining, you know, in my life. I got to see the energy that was around it. And that started happening several times. And it was like, I can't handle this. I'm going insane. And started going like schizophrenic. They would speak to me. I couldn't look. Psychic abilities went from 0 to 100 with you couldn't turn it off. So I walk into Walmart or whatever, and now you know all of these things about all these people, but it's not just everything. Like the spirits that are around them, in them, are talking to you through everything and everyone. And it was just like, I can't go out. I couldn't talk. I couldn't order food at the fast food restaurant, any of that. I was going mad. So I remembered being a Christian just a few years before, and the beauty and the bliss that I had in my life. And I wanted it, you know, because I was at rock bottom. I felt like entities were pulling my mind away from me. And I had one like bad night by this energy. I was coughing up blood. My health was going down. It was just crazy stuff. And asked my girlfriend if she'd pray with me and pray for God to heal me and forgive me and, you know, touch my body. And so she prayed with me. She didn't believe in God, but she prayed, and I felt better. Woke up the next morning and rededicated my life to following God. And because I knew if like I was going to die, like so I was going to end up in a mental institution, put on medications, and my mind would just, I knew what was coming. And I couldn't handle it, you know. So that was in September of 2000. So I know it's a long story, but when we get into, you know, where I'm at now and that origin story, everything came full circle because I had to run away from anything like those comments, you know, say from the Christians, like incense, yoga, you know, all demonic. Like I couldn't be around it. I had PTSD. Because literally I would use those things to summon entities. But full circle in the study and the healing and all of that kind of stuff, like, hold on, didn't the priest use incense in the Bible? Why did they use it? So most of the things that were in so-called the occult or different witch circles and stuff like that, these are all tools. And our body is connected with, you know, the Bible says we're fearfully and wonderfully made. So there's aromatherapy, there's color therapy, there is psychic abilities, but I was using them and getting them from the low hanging fruit. It took years, but God brought all of that full circle to show me biblically, you know, how these things are supposed to be used and how I was called even from birth to operate in this stuff. And so everything came full circle. I would say, you know, 10 years, I guess, of being a Christian. I was sharing that story at churches, and I did Christian rap music and stuff for years. I was a minister, street preacher, did it all. And, in my study, in my experiences, started going a little bit deeper, and asking deeper questions, and books that were taken out of the Bible, stuff like that, and reading the Book of Enoch back before you get in trouble for reading it. Now, like pastors preach out of it and stuff, so it's kind of come full circle with that too. But asking those questions, and then when you ask questions, you get answers. Jesus says in Revelation, ask, seek, and knock, and the door shall be open to you. Well, you just got to be careful what door you're knocking on. I was knocking on the wrong door. So,
so you think you had to
started happening.
You had to go through that, and see the negative and experience that, so that you could, the contrast, so that you could experience the positive.
Yeah, I'm so thankful, because like I do have the contrast. Like I do know the bottom of my barrel, and then beautiful light, and I have a contrast, and obviously those contrasts go further and further on both sides. But what I can judge, what I can see beauty in, because I know what darkness is. And that's how we judge. I mean, and judging is a good thing. Like you should judge whether you should do something, but definitely can judge the fruit, as the Bible says. And that's what I've come to do, and terms and things like that, and religion. No, what's the fruit of it? Yeah, we speak a different language, and yeah, the practices and names and things may be changed, but what does it bring forth in the individual? And so, when those encounters got deeper, and I started making contact under the stars, I mean, there's different things led up to that, but actually going out for hours, until I saw something move, if you will, and you know how that is. But it come back to bite me, because as a writer, as an artist, like you write what you're going through, so if I'm like, my early music was about fighting the devil, and shooting the devil with guns, and Christian gangster rap kind of stuff. But then it's like, as I'm experiencing this stuff, I'm like, let me put it in my music, and then I start talking about it and doing podcasts about it as this Christian minister. And then so now they're like, hold on, man, why are you sharing quotes by people, philosophers, and those kind of things? And I'm doing posts about UFOs and about angels and all that stuff. And at that time, like, no, it's straight demons. There was nobody to even have that conversation. For me, the conversation is and always has been angelic. But it was the UFO community that was having that conversation, and the religious, Christian community, they wouldn't even have it. It was, hey, those are demons. Be careful, man. You're gonna get in, And I'm in the Bible Belt, so I'm in the South. So there was totally nobody having this conversation. So, I pioneered a lot of stuff in general, but definitely in the environment that was laughed at, ridiculed, mocked. TruthSeekah's gone back to the same demons that he had in witchcraft, and now he's a witch again, and all these kind of things that was hard to go through. People that looked up to you now looking down on you and saying, man, I telling you that I used to look up to you, but now you're following Satan and stuff. I'm like, no, I'm not. I follow Jesus, the same Jesus of the scripture. Nothing's changed. Like, you see what I show you on the internet, but my reading the Bible and praying and worshiping God, and like, nothing's changed. But people are scary, man. People are trying to protect their faith. They don't want to go to hell. So, I guess you can't blame them.
Right. Yeah, definitely. So I'd be interested to hear, what are some of the kind of like the positive experiences that you've had with angelic beings and or extraterrestrials?
Well, the most positive is just to see them, early on, just to know that they were out there.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, to know that it's real, and what it did for me. Like, because it's always been an angelic conversation, and I'm going out there praying. I'm out there talking to God, Father, if these are your angels, if you have angels that are traveling back and forth from heaven to earth, The cherubim, the seraphim, which are the fiery ones. They look like fire, and they hold and carry the knowledge of God. Let me see one. If they're out there, let me see them. And I'm praying, but I'm kind of begging. I'm like, hey, you told me to ask, and I want this. And I'm getting up very early. I had a job that allowed me to be out at like 4 a.m. under the stars, 5 a.m. And I was out there a long time.
Yeah.
Until finally, you're looking at a star that's kind of twinkling or whatever, and it's like, is it trying to catch my attention? Is this thing, is it changing shape? Is it? No, that's just what all the stars do. And you're like, I don't know. It's kind of
different,
communicating with me or something, a star.
Yeah.
And then it's like morphing and getting bigger and smaller. And it's like, if my eyes playing tricks on me? And then all of a sudden it gets real big and something comes out of the star and flies off. What the heck's that? Oh my God. I'm like, oh man, thank you, God. You let me see it, So it was like in this conversation, a conscious conversation. And then, seeing all kinds of other things that were, amazing things. And again, what it did for me as a seeker, like, the Bible is a fairy tale. The Bible is made up. There's not life beyond death, all these kind of things. And so the study of the paranormal and the story of ufology is to ask a bigger question. What is that? What are those things that people are catching on camera that are now talking to me, that are now saying, hey, look over here. We're going to show you where we're at. Okay, there they are. Wow. Thank you. Oh man, thank you, Father. Thank you, Jesus, right? You let me see them. And, these my angels. What's your names? Then you're having dreams and visions, and then you're exchanging energy. And just that by itself, if no messages, if it stopped, that the awe and the wonder, I would say that was imparted to put in my music and to fathom the beauty and mystery again. But also like, hey, maybe these scriptures are true. Maybe these scriptures are real, that these angels are traveling back and forth from heaven to earth, And that's what it's always been, that conversation for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. So what would you, yeah, your background just went off for a second. It's good now. So what would you say to people who maybe have grown up in maybe a religious upbringing, or they may have very religious but programmed people around them? Like, how do you deal with that to help just keep your compassion and love and try to, like, you're doing something really important, being the bridge between, those two things. So what kind of advice? There's some people who they don't feel like they can open up. They may have family members. What's kind of your advice to them?
I tell people all the time, like, you don't have to have the conversation with them.
Yeah.
Like those are your experiences. Like, those people may never see, they may never believe, they may never have that encounter. And so, I think self-control and like knowing who you are and validating yourself and your beliefs and your truth, part of that is like, you don't have to agree with me. And so being able to hold your tongue, because when something is brand new to you, you want to tell everybody. When you become a vegan, like, or vegetarian, like, how do you know somebody's vegan? They tell you. Boom, boom. A Christian proselytizer, you found something beautiful, something that means something to you, so you want to go tell everybody. But there comes this place in time where it's like, the words only get in the way, because you're talking, like, for me, it was having a bunch of encounters that you had to kind of know this and then go through that and know this to get here, and trying to explain that to people, or, you understand why people don't believe. And I do too. Like, I know all of those messages that I still get mean messages from Christians and stuff all the time. And even more so, the bigger, my platform gets and the more people I reach. And now they like, have to put this wildfire out. So the crazy thing is this, they're mean about it. They're being mean to people and stuff. So find your tribe. There's people online. That's one of the biggest things about. I went to the internet and I tried to talk to some people around me, but I knew how crazy it was. And then when I did tell some friends, like I didn't hear from them for a long time. And supposedly that wasn't the reason we just got busy. But I'm like, in my head, it's like, oh man, I'm sharing these things that mean a lot to me. And I know they're going to sound crazy because these people all think they're demons that I'm talking to. And that's what they're going to say. So they're going to put doubt in you and all that stuff. But the internet's cool because we can listen to podcasts like this. We can listen to people's stories and testimonies and find that commonality, find somebody who's been down that road, and that was a big deal for me, listening to tons of radio shows or podcasts back in, 2010, going through this stuff and then starting my own. So for me, it's becoming what I needed and being able to get on the phone with somebody or talk to somebody. I remember calling like James Gilliland's ranch at ECETI early on. And there was a guy named Nate who was like one of his interns who would answer the phone and talk to me and stuff. And
really,
really cool. Like, yeah, man, because it wasn't as big as all this stuff is now. Like, it was different back then, and but those little things meant a lot. Somebody say, hey man, you're gonna be okay. Yeah, man, I see this stuff all the time and they're beautiful, man, ain't they? And yeah, James is a regular guy, man. He wants everybody to know he's a regular dude. And I'm like, can I get him on my podcast? I just started a podcast. So I came out the gate starting a podcast and I'm just interviewing all these big name people that I wanted to talk to as a researcher, as somebody who needed answers. And I would listen to hours of Coast to Coast AM and take notes and then email those people and they were like, sure, we'll do your podcast. Oh God, you talked about these spirits and angels and the great white brotherhood that are coming to you and UFOs. And now I'm not the best speaker, but back then it was a lot more ums and, and it was hard to formulate sentences for me. And these people were big deals and it was some bad interviews, let's say that, but they meant a lot, and I got to have one-on-ones with a lot of these people who were seasoned in this stuff. So that helped me. And now I knew those people resonated with me. I know that they were successful and they weren't crazy and they've been through something similar. So being able to go to work and talk about, I would look at the scores on football, like the night before. I'd lay in bed and watch the highlight reel. And I go to work and be like, hey, man, I seen that, man. That pass was awesome, man. Wow, man, they beat them. They barely beat them. Just to be normal, just to like, hey, man, UFOs are here, bro. Like, that's what you want to do. But that self-control, what I'm talking about, being able to hold it and be like, yeah, man, how about them Cowboys? Like those people don't want to hear about that. If they ask you and solicit you, that's another, maybe that's an opportunity. But going around, hey man, y'all believe in UFOs, man, the government's putting, oil in your waters. But we're like that at first, and I think that, balance is key with all this because they'll, man, a lot of these messages I get, those people have been put in mental institutions by dealing with this energy. I was headed there, they're on medication. They're telling people, they're researching ancient manuscripts, they're questioning their faith, they're getting answers, but it's hard. It's hard to go through that dark night, if you will, alone. And so this work that we're doing by just even having this conversation is working wonders in people's lives. So what I did with my podcast wasn't nothing. I just had a conversation that from my background and what I was as a leader, they told us we couldn't have. I couldn't talk to a psychic. I couldn't talk to somebody who studies Egyptology or ufology. And they told us not to have these conversations. And that's all I did was sit down and find commonality. We were shown how to sit down and find everything we disagree with. And that's easy. That's all they teach you. But to sit down and study, hey, y'all may call them Nagas, but we call them this. And look at the commonality and the similarities. So I did that with my podcast, and you see that we have more in common than we don't. And that is ufology, that is spirituality. That's all of these realms of thinking that we're sharing the same experience. We're just using different words, and such is the religious connotation as well.
Right. Like the interpretations of the Bible. I'm sure there is so much wisdom and knowledge in there. It's just been, a lot of it's kind of been like misinterpreted or taken out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, we're here to reinterpret it, to show you the living word.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm reading about me when I read that book.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking stories and parables and people who lived. Listen, when you are tapped in, you're reading about yourself. You're reading about your giants that you're facing, and all of that stuff. So, there's something I repeat, and I try to repeat it, but it's a big deal. I say I gave up my right to be right.
Mm-hmm.
I gave that up. Like, I had to win the argument or win the conversation or convince somebody. And so when I gave that up, there was so much peace that came upon me that I didn't have to strive and convince people. And it wasn't my Christian duty to win people or save them from hell or anything. It's just to sit with people, to meet people where they are. So I didn't have to proselytize. I didn't have to convince you because you disagree. Hey, I can see why. I would too. I'm a skeptic. And but it's a big place of walking in peace. Like, I don't need anybody to validate me. I'm already validated, by God, by Christ, by the breath. You know what I'm saying? Whatever it is that you tap into, hopefully it's sustaining you, because we're not going to be in a time, we're already in a time where we need it more than anything. So whatever your faith is, whatever your experiences are, they should be helping you and generating peace and love. So choose your battles wisely. Know who you are, because if you allow people to tell you who you are, they will. But when you discover who you are, and there's many different ways, I guess, that we would do that, but you don't just become what other people say you are. You are able to know your hope and know your calling and know why you're here and operate accordingly, regardless of anybody's opinion and regardless of anybody's permission.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're showing them better than we can tell them. All the stuff that was laughed at, it's all on the news.
Right.
The pastors are formulating sermons on the Book of Enoch. I've been validated by my walk, by the fruit of my lips. It's come back to, man, I don't come back and say, I told you so. Listen, man, you'll never get the validation you're looking for, but you learn to trust the voice. All of this stuff came to pass and I wasn't wrong. I followed my intuition. I followed the light at night that's communicating with us. And so let me continue to do it. Let me continue to trust it. Let me ask it bigger questions. And when we get those downloads and those prompts, we know that we're in great hands, because it's led us this far. And so make those people eat their words. The people that say you're crazy, hold your tongue. Make them eat their words, because, I've done it and it can be done and it's beautiful. They'll end up coming back to you. Many times they will apologize. Let's, get that straight. But you don't go with this, I told you so, trying to convince them. You just do you. And that's what all the great gurus did. Jesus had people following him. He wasn't going to the streets knocking on doors. He's just doing what Jesus does. And the people want to follow and know, because his words carry weight. You're not just teaching on a Bible lesson about the angels. No, listen, if you do this, this, and this, you can see them.
Yeah.
If you look into whatever, gaze into the water at the reflection, you may see the UFOs behind you in the sun. There's a lot of different techniques and things that we have at our disposal that we get results. You know, and I think that that's what it's about. Religion, philosophy, it needs to have results.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just a bunch of things you just said that we could expand on. I'd like to add first, like, whenever all this started happening to me, I was going around and telling a lot of people, not a lot of people, but the people around me, you know, I'm like, dude, like, UFOs, like, they're here. And I got a lot of backlash from my family and even astrophotographer friends. But as soon as and that weighed on me a lot at first, but as soon as I just stopped trying to tell them what to do, or stop trying to tell them, you know, just stop talking to them about it, period. And I just started doing my own thing, you know, like a year or so later now, like, my mom's coming to me to sage the house, and you know, I can actually start to have these open conversations with my family about it. It just took a little bit of time. So yeah, they'll start seeing whenever you begin living in alignment with who you truly are and not focusing on the external, your light becomes brighter, and then you just begin to attract people.
Yeah.
And it just shifts the energy completely. People don't try to like take advantage of you or judge you, I guess, as much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I tell
definitely.
people, hold your shit. Because it's hard to do, you know, and everybody's telling you things and you think, well, maybe I am crazy. You know, maybe these are demons that have, I mean, I've asked those questions. I've begged God to take this stuff away from me. You know, when everything that you know and love and call familiar is turned its back on you, it's like, seems like something the devil would do. You know what I'm saying? Like, is this the devil? Did I let the devil back in and those kind of things? And God wouldn't. I'm fasting, I'm praying, I'm throwing stuff away, coming out of religion. And then like all my minister friends, so-called friends, it was the thing of who you called friends. Those people weren't my friends. Those people were acquaintances. But to me, I had a bond and a friendship that goes deeper. And I thought that others, especially in religion, you know, had the same feelings, but they didn't. So whatever you can do to not lose it. And there's a lot of things we can do. There's a lot. We've got a whole bunch. And don't burn bridges. If it's truth, if it's real, if it's true, any conspiracy theory that people are following, like, if it's true, it ain't going nowhere. It'll be, if it's true today, it'll be true tomorrow. And you don't need it to be its spokesman or mouthpiece. You grounding and being a conduit is very hard. And again, people are having a hard time, and it's hard. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. But to make it through those rough patches and hold on to your sanity, hold on to your peace, is a really big deal.
Yeah, for sure. So there was a few things that you said that I really liked and is so powerful. So I want to teach people, not just, you know, at first it was very much about like the photos and the footage, and well, it was about more than that, but that's what got me into this, was showing people that.
Yeah.
And but I want to not only show people that, I want to help teach them how to experience it for themselves. And like the UFOs, the extraterrestrials, star beings, God, the angels, all of these beings, like, you can communicate with them too. Everybody watching this can have an experience, and it's the most beautiful, profound, life-changing thing. And there was something that you said, I'm like addicted to it. That's what I live for, mystical, profound experiences.
They're awesome. Yeah. But here's the key though, right? Because once you're having them, it's like, oh, you're chasing experiences. That's what they say in the church. You're chasing experiences and chasing encounters, and they kind of like, you know, your faith is only about encounters, or only if you feel something. But what ends up happening is every moment is an encounter.
Yeah.
It isn't a, you know, and the catching stuff on camera, this is new for me. They wouldn't let me catch anything on camera. Like, it was, I had to go out and have the ceremonies and do the fasting and prayer and be out there for a long time, and I got friends to go with me, and people could come with me a lot of times. And if we could get in the same expectancy and energy and childlike wonder, we could have an encounter. But it isn't until recent that I've been able to film and there were times I would run to go get my cell phone and they'd be gone.
Yeah.
And I would miss it because, oh, you had a moment, man, and you missed it because you wanted to film it and show people to say, hey, I told you so, when you had literally 8 seconds to sit here and you go and get your phone and then you hold your phone up and it won't even focus on stars that far away because you don't know how to do the setting, all that kind of stuff. But
yeah,
after having so many experiences, and how do you have the experiences? Again, I think it's just everything's in the subtlety. Everything is in the magic of each moment. And when every moment becomes sacred to where you can notice, whether you can feel, whether you can breathe, or I mean, there's so many, things that we can be thankful for, appreciative for, and mindful of. Those are the initiations into those deeper conversations, because it works vice versa. Because you know this, when you have those encounters, they're telling you, hey, clean your diet up. Hey, meditate a little more. Hey, drink water. Hey, listen to healing tones and frequencies. Listen to frequencies. And we're here listening to healing tones and frequencies. And I've got chimes and bells and 432 and all of that. And you got to go get those things until now we're sitting in the sun and the birds are singing.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're slowing down footage like I am, because there's a lot of stuff's fast, there's no way you can pick it up with the naked eye. So you got to slow down footage to be like, oh God, there was an interaction, there was an exchange, something came and dropped something off, this other thing picked it up in a matter of 2 seconds. That slowed down. It's like a 30-minute movie or something. And so now I'm out there with the birds slowing the footage down, and their singing sounds like a healing meditation CD because it's slowed down and they're really fast, making all these little noises and singing. And it's beautiful. But when you slow it down, it's these really beautiful songs that are like slowed down, and we're able to experience them in another dimension. So knowing that, I'm like, I'm outside and have my stomach's hurting and the birds are singing and feels like they're singing towards me. I'm like, let me let y'all do some healing on me. We're in relationship. We're in connection. So even their frequency and their tone is healing. So the awe and the wonder, not just to catch something on film, those are amazing, man. Yeah. But everything is amazing. That is the initiation, because when you get out there I caught them on film, they're like, okay, now you saw us real big out there by the sun, right? Okay, now there's a little orb flying around you. Yeah. That you've called it dust. Or you thought it was a seed flying. Keep your eye on it. Try to communicate with it. These things have the ability to change shape and become very small and fly. You're talking quantum. It blows the mind. So be mindful, and in that moment is the experience. So now it doesn't matter what the experience is, all of them, are amazing. If it's at night and the star moves and one comes out of a star, I didn't know that I could see them in the day like I'm catching them on film. That's the mind-blowing thing, because it was over, 15 years of me waiting for the sun to go down and a new moon and hoping it's not cloudy so I can have an encounter or an experience. But I'm catching way more in the daylight with the sun and those light rays that, man, they've been there that's the thing. They've been there the whole time. Yeah. They didn't, maybe it's ramping up. Maybe there's a veil that's thinning, but that was there the whole time. But my mind was like, nope, at sundown during the new moon. Now we got 2 weeks to wait for the new moon. It's like, man, the sun rises every day. Yeah. If you know how to look at light differently, you can see the spectrums, which are entities that dwell on different light frequencies. So I'm sorry I'm long-winded, but I love talking about this stuff, and just all of them are magical. All of them are special.
Yeah, I agree. As I've kind of like trained myself and just like opened up to this, developing the subtle senses, working with the universe, working with the star beings, it does like things begin to happen just like all of the time. And you can't have a moment like all of the time, like a special moment. And I love that. And with the footage, I 100% agree. At first, I was having these experiences at night with these UFOs, and they wanted me to catch them on camera. They were literally getting in front of my camera in the beginning, so that was kind of like my way in. Like that's how they taught me, like, hey, we're real. Now they don't get in front of the camera as much because I've kind of like got past that point, and we communicate on like kind of a different level than them always showing up physically. But at first it was happening at night, and then when I started to like start to communicate with them, I was going out every single sunset. The sun is so powerful. You can see all of these crazy looking orbs, and it's just incredible. All of these things that you can't see with your naked eye, but on camera, you just zoom in and slow it down. You can see these things, and that it is, some of these shapes are crazy. Yeah, they're in a different light spectrum, like you said. So I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, in even thinking about, kind of my story and starting out with the shadow beings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are beings that the shadow is a spectrum of light as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there are beings that reside or vibrate in every spectrum of the rainbow, of every color and of every shade of gray and everything in between, that if the light is right, you can see them. There's so many different ways, and all of those ways are beautiful. And I don't, you know, the conversation is a lot bigger now, because it's like, okay, just, and then what light is within you? Because part of what this stuff is like it's showing itself to you is you're resonating or vibrating at that frequency that they're on.
Mm-hmm.
So they're showing themselves to you. There, because there's so much of this, people are locked out. So we're trying to have conversations with people and convince people who are locked out of this stuff, because it takes forgiveness. It takes getting the heart space right. They vibrate that. It takes so much that to continue conversation. And that was something that was, downloaded and given to me. It was like, hey, if you want to keep this up, do this. And it was good things. It was things that were going to help me and to go deeper. How long have you been doing this? Did you say just only been over a year? Or
It's been like 2 years, maybe
okay,
2.5, maybe 3. Yeah,
yeah,
I got the crash course, man.
yeah, right. Because you were a photographer and
Yeah, so
taking
whenever
pictures of
COVID, yeah,
astronomy.
whenever COVID started, and we're in the middle of lockdown, I started going out and shooting astrophotography. And then a couple months, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the stars. So this is like in like lockdown, like, yeah, I guess like 2 or 3 Novembers ago. And they just started showing up, and it started to kind of freak me out because then they were popping up everywhere, and these like physical ships. The first ship I ever saw was a huge diamond shape, and it was like I was on my front porch, and it was a few houses down, and it started coming straight for me and disappeared above my head. That was probably the craziest one I've had, my first one. But yeah, then they just started popping up everywhere, and I'm like, I think they're trying to tell me something. And so I just kept, like recording, or they would even just literally get in my camera, even whenever I wasn't even trying to capture them. Like I would see them coming in the background of my footage.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's how it started. Then I began communicating with them.
yeah, that's awesome. Have you had like the fleet? Have you seen a fleet of them yet? Like a whole like multitude of them show up at once?
I've seen with orbs, with the golden light orbs, I have caught probably like dozens or hundreds of them on camera at once.
Mhm.
Not like the big ships up in the sky, though. At least not like visibly or physically manifesting. But yeah, I've caught like a crap ton of orbs and weird shaped things, geometrical shapes that are shifting. I know you caught like a Merkaba, which is in one of these kind of like orbs of light, which is pretty incredible. So they can just manifest in all these different ways.
Yeah, when you're talking about the diamond thing, I've seen the Merkaba ones turn into diamonds. Um, so that's the weird thing, and this is also why to me it's angelic, because a lot of their forms are changing,
Mm.
and it's like they come as like a um six-pointed star, like the Star of David, which is a Merkaba, which is just the word vehicle in Hebrew, and or chariot.
Yeah.
And you'll see them, and then they'll change into something else, do a maneuver, spin, turn into a circle, and fly off. Like this stuff, it's like is mind blowing. It's mind blowing. But again, it still helps me like with the Bible stuff though, because there's different angels that are described that have wings that go out in every direction. And then as the spirit allows them, they're able to move in that direction. There's all of these different types of entities that look like birds and bugs and everything that are out there. In and around the sun, and the spectrums of the rainbow around the sun, and they're descending, and literally there's stuff flying, man. Like when you slow the footage down, it's like a bird, like a what do you call, phoenix or something, coming out of the sun and flying around the sun. And there's all these scriptures about the birds coming out of the sun, and the angels, and just wild stuff. That, see, the way the scriptures work and what was so awesome about it, it's not just the scriptures, it's everything. Consciousness works this way, but including the Bible, is that you can't understand it unless you encounter it. And then once you encounter it, then you have a grid to understand it, because a lot of these things are coming like out of the sun. Is what I'm catching a lot of the footage of things coming out of the sun or going into the sun. And they're descending, and they look like birds. And then I'm reminded of Jesus being baptized, and it says the Holy Spirit or spirits descended on him as a dove and landed upon him. A light came out, shone out of heaven, and the Spirit descended on him as a dove, as a winged creature. And all of the different birds that are mentioned. And that's just birds. That's not, we're talking, I mean, serpents and dragons, and the seraphim are the flying fiery serpents. It's literally what it translates to. And I got those things on footage. They look like dragons and stuff that are chasing things through the clouds, trying to eat it. Like, my mind is blown. Some of this stuff I don't even want to share or talk about, because some of it's like, even me, I'm like, oh God, what is that? Like, what is that? And then the jets are coming to spray the mist and the contrails and chemtrails so that we can't see it. And like I said during this talk with Charnel, like, that's a key. When you see all of those, they come from every direction and they crisscross the sun. From whatever perspective you're looking at it, they're trying to block something. So when it's time to film and you want to know when, look when they're headed, when they're trying to hide something. And so if you focus long enough or ask, there's something that can be shown. So the complexity of what's going on, like, part of me is like, it's all types of different types of entities. And part of these, like, we know what time they come out to eat, or they're let out to come out to eat, and come out and they're chasing. It's just crazy stuff. I got them on film.
Wow.
I'm just trying to find them in the scriptures, and they're in there. There's spider things out there, some scare. I'll tell you what, so the peace and stuff, I try my best to, my relationship with the ones down here has changed, like, drastically, because I know they got big brothers. The birds, the spiders, like, these spiders ain't nothing if they little, and most of us are scared of those. But what if there was not even one the size of a planet or size of a car? Like, what if it was the size of a dog? A spider, we'd freak out. But I've got things on film that are, I don't know how big they are, but and they're in the darker gradients of the sky, and they're just posted there, and they look like huge spiders with stripes on them. Some of this is scary. Like some of it's like I want to be able to control my narrative too, but as if that's even a thing,
I had an experience, one of my first, it was in the beginning. I was literally driving around all night because suddenly it was super clear one night. Suddenly I went into the gas station. By the time I came out, like full clouds. And these clouds were like red colored. It's in the middle of the night. And I was like, this is not normal. So then I started driving around with my camera, and I just had a bunch of contact experience. They were popping up. Like I saw the physical ships 14 times within 2 weeks. So now I'm like, all right, now I'm looking for them. And yeah, I ended up posting up somewhere, just sitting out there, pointing my camera at this guy. I was like singing, just hanging out, like waiting. It's like 3:00 in the morning, waiting for something to happen. Cause I'm like, I know you're up there. I know you're up there. And I didn't catch them on camera, but my camera was rolling 3 lights just lowered down through the fog right above my car. And I kind of like stuttered. I was like, oh my God, I see 3 lights. I come in peace. I come in peace. That's what I said to them. And then they just went back up.
Yeah.
It was really cool. But the point of that was after that, I drove home and the sun's coming up. I saw this weird octopus looking thing fly through the sky. I was like, what the heck was that?
Yeah.
And I've seen some weird stuff too. So I know what you're talking about. I've seen this other thing. It kind of looked like a ghost, or like the dog from Nightmare Before Christmas, the ghost dog, just slithering through the sky. And
Yeah,
it was like kind of like lime colored. Yeah.
So much stuff. I don't know how many like nuts and bolts craft I've seen, because to me, again, these things are like alive. I've seen the tic tac ones, or that's what they call it now, the tic tac shape, but they used to call it the cigar shape. The tic tac UFO, they used to call them cigar shaped UFOs, but I've seen those and they look more metallic, if you will. But yeah, there's so much out there that mimics everything on Earth. That's a crazy thing, or mimics the ocean. A lot of people, another group of people, and just to let you know, I love you guys. You guys are amazing. The flat earthers. It's hard to have a conversation like this with them because they don't believe in outer space, or I don't know the science. Maybe it's a dome and there's just different layers and densities of it, right? That they're still under it. But a lot of times it's hard to have the conversation with them because they believe that it's water out there or up there. And I mean, I could see how that could be true. Just different levels of density of water, and that separate a lot of the beings. So you start seeing the entities that mirror that of the ocean, and then even the darkest parts of the ocean where these fish do have lights on their head. Yeah. These fish can change shape and change colors, and an octopus can cloak. All of this different technology that we know, there's videos of all of this in the ocean. This isn't like, this is legit. And then you're seeing UFOs and craft that are mimicking the same thing.
Nature's the best technology.
No, it's the best medicine. It's the best everything.
It is the best. It is the best. So kind of going back to like making contact, and then we'll wrap it up here in a second. What do you say to people? There was a few things that you said that I really liked. Okay, asking, because that's one of the first lessons that I learned whenever I began communicating with them. Ask, believe, receive. You have to be open to receive. This was just something that really helped me a lot, and it's true. It's real. Because you can't, I even caught it on camera whenever I was learning about spirituality, and I learned you have to ask, like you have to ask for it because we have free will. So I was like, okay. So I'm like outside, I got my camera up, I'm recording sunset, and I'm like talking to this guy, like, all right, I ask you to help me, star family, star beings, I'm asking for your help. I give you permission to assist me in my life. And then I caught on camera orbs shooting from the horizon to the camera. Like I actually caught a physical
Yeah.
response, and that just blew me away. I was like, okay, this is real. This is real. But so what do you tell to people to help them be able to have these sort of experiences themselves, or, maybe seeing UFOs or seeing angelic beings, or doing kind of like CE5, making contact with these? What would you suggest for them to do? Some kind of tips?
Yeah. It's just like you said, ask, ask for it and then look for it once you ask. But, I gotta say, throw the skeptic stuff out there. Make sure that it's, because at first, like every light in the sky, I'm like, wow, there's a plane. And planes can be pretty bright. And hey, I'm not telling you that all planes are even planes. Let's, like, if they have to cloak and go back and forth, like, best thing to do would be to take the shape of a plane. Who knows? But asking, and looking. And there's so many different techniques that I've learned over the years, and everybody um has a different gift, a different ability. Some people can feel in their body when they're near. Some people can see. Some people can hear. There's a ringing and tones, and many people possess many of those gifts, and they're all here for us to sense their senses, their psychic senses, if you will, ESP, extrasensory perception, and um, asking with that childlike faith and wonder is a big part of it. But the different techniques to do, um, gazing, gazing at many different things, gazing into the sky and letting your eyes fix until something moves. Once you kind of, I wouldn't call it a trance, but your eyes get fixed to where the your peripheral vision is just locked in on that scenery, even though things may be radiance and moving and stuff. It isn't until you look at the clouds or look at the stars, and then you can see something move. There's techniques and tips that you get better at by doing that to actually identify, because the majority of the cool stuff is in the nuances. It's the hidden stuff. They hide a little bit better. There are things that we've already judged, but we've judged it the wrong way. And that could be insects. That could be clouds, lightning, many things, grass, wind, all of these things that we take for granted or we call common, that there's something beautiful in there that is connected with something that exists out there. The birds, making friends with the birds, and then they'll take you to their leader. Make friends with the bugs. They're ambassadors down here. They have big brothers. And that's one thing that I've noticed. If you honor their children, if you will, the ones that are down here on earth occupying, there's something bigger that exists up there that represents them. And just like humans or Christians believe that we are seated with Christ in heavenly places, that there's a version of you that exists out there with an advocate, Jesus, that is in the cosmos, that's watching over you. Now, who or what that looks like, that's awesome to get lost in. But if that exists, then such as it exists for the snakes and for everything. So making peace with those things, and I feel like they'll put a word in for you. Let's say that.
Yeah.
The
Just showing
birds.
compassion. Showing compassion. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
Everything's conscious.
talk to them. Talk to the trees. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is in those little nuances that we've been distracted from all of it. Hugging a tree and those kind of things that everything is an initiation. I can't say one, but the simplest would be gazing or staring into the sky, looking at the light of the sun, blocking the sun, using your cell phone, because a lot of people have done that. I'm getting crazy videos from people that literally with your cell phone, you can film it. So film the sun, but block the sun with maybe your house or a corner, but just so you can barely see the corona of the sun, barely see it. And you really want to focus on the light rays that are coming out of the sun. If you can catch a little bit of the sun in the footage, that's great, because you can actually see things going in and out of it and all kinds of wild stuff. But if you focus on that, your eyes can focus on it. But with the cell phone, you can go back and look at footage. You can slow it down, and it's able to pick up different spectrums of light and record frame rates that your eyes can't pick up without assistance of some type of lens. So those are things that anybody can do right now, and they're doing it. I did a couple of videos, they went viral in the algorithms, and then I'm flooded with inboxes of people like, oh my God, look at this, TruthSeekah, you weren't lying, dude. You weren't lying. Holy crap. Oh my God, man, this is cool, man. You know, I love to hear that in their voices and stuff. So yeah, anybody can do it. And that's, you know, watch out for the Messiah complex, whether it comes from you or a guru that's online who's the only one or whatever the case is. No, watch out for that. You know, people saying that they're messiahs or they're Jesus come back or they're all kinds of weird stuff. Hold your stuff together. You know what I'm saying? But this, you know, God, the angels, it will take you beyond your wildest dreams. But just hold on.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in within every single one of us. We all have the power to do it, which is just so exciting. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I guess we covered a lot. Do you want to tell people where they can find you and kind of like what you're up to? So you have a podcast and all of that, where people can find you if they'd like to look you up.
For sure. And yeah, I'm gonna have you on my show too. And I promise to let you talk.
You're
And,
good.
yeah. But yeah, I'll have you back on my show. So
Okay.
everybody, make sure you tune into that one. Yeah, you can check out my work at TruthSeekah.com, Truth SEEKAH.com. I do music, so I try to articulate a lot of these experiences and stuff within my music. And so, you know, that's something people can do too. Not just, yeah, my music is a great plug. Listen to my music and it'll open up gateways and portals for you to experience the things I'm rapping about. That's an amazing testimonies I get from people, that it's like been the journey and soundtrack for their spiritual awakening. And I've had people do that for me with their music, and it's such an honor that my music does that for others. So music, books, prayer, meditation, all of that, and then go out and stargaze and stuff, because now you got things contemplating and resonating in your heart and in your mind, and that's what they can work with. It's what God can work with. For you to understand, you've got to be able to add new spectrums, new colors, new words into what you're able to show them, because if not, that conversation is only angels or demons. And that's a very boring conversation, because nothing is that simple.
Right.
Nothing.
For sure. Yeah, I like that. Ask, contemplate, spend time praying. Praying is so powerful, so extremely powerful. And you can even talk to your star brothers and sisters, your star family, or the angels at all times. Like at all times, we're connected through consciousness. We're all connected. So just start talking to them and they'll show you some sort of a sign that they're listening.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And for everybody watching this, give this video a like. Go check out Derek. Go check out TruthSeekah's music as well. I'll have all of his links and everything in the description. And I'll see you later, Star Brothers and Sisters. Bye.